Hi, everybody. This is Cindy Kabika, and welcome to the Soul View. And of course, I have our show hosts here. We have Shivani Ganel and we have Lorelei Robbins. And I'm so glad that you are joining us for this very, very important topic today. You know, prejudice is our topic. And it is a hot topic in the news again because of the Starbucks incident. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, I'm going to tell you more about it in just a little bit. But just the long and the short of it here is that two men were racially profiled by being in this Starbucks, and they were arrested because of this. And so we'll talk more about what happened in just a moment. But things I want you to consider today. What is prejudice? You know, where does it come from? Can you move beyond it? And does it serve a purpose? And I think that's a big thing that we need to consider here. And we're going to be talking more about that, of course, today. And a little bit later, you're going to have a chance to experience how to recenter yourself and clear anything that stands in your way of being open. So we're going to do a little bit of tapping here today. So get ready for that. And the other thing, of course, that we like to start off with is Lorelei giving us the astral weather. So Lorelei.
Hello, everybody. Well, you know, we're still in the new moon until about 8:30 tomorrow morning Eastern time on Thursday. So this is still a time to be able to plant seeds. And it's really interesting how, and we'll be talking more about this, the whole Starbucks incident in terms of the Aries energy and, you know, different people showing courage in different ways. And what does that mean? But here's an opportunity to really consider for yourself if you're living a life being true to who you really are. That's what Aries energy is about. And that's what this next 30-day lunar cycle is. It's the Aries energy, which is, am I doing what I want to do? Am I going where I want to go? And, you know, while this may sound selfish, it's not, because it comes right back to Shakespeare's "To thine own self be true." And we can't be false to anyone else. So folks could be making decisions now that are surprising them, you know, going, wow, I didn't know I had the courage to do that, or to say that, or to go in that direction, or to, you know, I always think of Aries as Star Trek energy. It's that dare to go where you've never been before. So here's an opportunity now to really get clear with yourself what the desires of your heart really are, and to allow yourself to plant those seeds and then watch what happens as we come to the full moon in a couple of weeks. So I would say for now, just standing in the courage of, this is who I am, this is what's important to me, and this is the life I want to live.
Beautiful.
Love it.
Well, I want to remind everybody, you know, if you have comments about the astral weather, astrological weather going on, if you have any comments about our topic here today or anything that we are talking about, please put those comments over to the side and, you know, in the chat box, or if you are on Facebook live with us, then go ahead and put your comments below. And if we don't get to them today, then we will answer those questions the next time that we're on. We do go back and check those questions. So we would love, love, love to hear from you. And
also like us if you're on Facebook Live, share and like us.
That's right. Give that like button a high five.
Send us some hearts.
Honestly, some hearts. Absolutely. In fact, go ahead and hit the like button if you have ever experienced prejudice in your life, either towards you or outwardly, you know, towards someone else, and you didn't even know where it came from. So just let us know that. And now, before we talk about that topic, let's go ahead and get Shivani on, and she's going to, this is our questions and quotes time, and she's got some quotes from some of you. And again, I want to thank you so much for the beautiful comments. We've had so many, and it's extraordinary. So I thank you so much, Shivani.
Yeah, we had some lovely feedback, and let me just read this. So Claire Spears Hello, beautiful ladies and bartender Ferris. Well, I am Scottish and living in Ireland at the moment, where they just have a wonderful turn of phrase and a gift for storytelling. I saw a sign in a cafe the other day that reminded me of all of you. It said, "We don't have Wi-Fi, we talk to one another in here!" Exclamation mark. Even though the show is over the internet, the feeling of truth connection and soul communication is so strong. It is like we are sitting face to face in the same room, and I thank you deeply for that. Too often we can be in the same room as someone and so asleep, we forget what true connection feels like. I am reawakening to it, and you all play a huge part in that. Thank you. There was also a sign that said, unattended children will be given a puppy and an espresso. Much love, Claire from Ennis.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm thrilled that that's coming across, because that's our intention. So really, thank you so much for seeing that and getting it.
Because we do want this to be a conversation. It's not just us, it's all of us. You know, we're just the face of the conversation, but you are all a part of this conversation. So please, questions, comments, and even if you disagree with something that we say or have something to add, please go ahead and add to it. And again, if you're joining us on Zoom, go ahead and put your comments in there, and also say hi to each other. I love it when you're interacting over there. It's really wonderful to see.
Yeah. Maureen Lee sent us already 4 hearts.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love it.
One for each.
Well, thank you. You know, again, this hot topic this week is prejudice. Well, what does prejudice mean? And I would like to start this by asking both of you what you feel prejudice is. Lorelei?
Yeah, well, again, my question always is, when we hear prejudice, do we go right to the racial, which is a form of prejudice, in other words? But in knowing that we were going to look at this topic, the prejudging, here's something that we all do. We may not be racially prejudiced, possibly, but we all judge beforehand. And so to me, this gives us all an opportunity, because again, the soul view is what connects us all, no matter what the details are or what the names are on the specific events that happen. But, so to explore the topic of prejudging, and what that looks like, and where it's useful and where we can miss out on things because we prejudge a certain group or a certain situation or before it even happens. So I'm just sort of wide open to this conversation with the intention to, again, see this from a broader view than I might have seen it in the past.
Yeah, for me, it would be also stereotyping. Yeah, we don't even realize how much we stereotype certain racial groups or people that are old, or, anybody really that is a little bit different to us. And especially, and that could be positive, and it could also be negative. For example, being German, especially in the 80s in Australia, I remember I had an continuous incident when I worked in histopathology, and my colleagues thought it was hilarious to greet me every morning with Heil Hitler. Yeah, so the stereotype, the prejudice was, well, all Germans must be Nazis. Now, I've also had the opposite, where I got a job and this person said, "You're German, you're good workers, I'll take you."
Yeah, exactly.
It does work both ways.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think I think we have so much information in our mind, from when we are from our upbringing, it's like all Italians are good cooks, would be a stereotype, and with that prejudice. And then we can't retain all this information, and we start without maybe realizing how we stereotype different people or even situations.
So it's a preconceived opinion that's not based on reason, and it's not perhaps even based on an actual experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people that I've seen have prejudice, but they don't know anything about it. I think about that with my husband and food, and he will prejudge a food. And when he was little, he ate nothing but hamburgers on a bun, completely plain. He didn't want anything on it, no mustard, no ketchup, no pickles, nothing, just plain. All of his life. Well, when he went in the military, he had no choice but to try other things. And so he was forced, if he was going to eat, he was forced to eat whatever they had. And all of a sudden he realized, oh my gosh, I love this. And he started trying all these things, and he never knew because he prejudged all other foods as not a hamburger.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
he even said one time he was at a friend's and they made him a hamburger, and the mom put ketchup on it, and he cried and had his mom come and pick him up. That's how upset he was about it. So it was deep-seated, whatever it was, and it was based on not knowing anything else. Yeah. So what were you going to say, Lorelei?
No, I was just, the incident is going through my head. I'm just thinking of how I've been holding this thing that occurred, and how, since from the soul view perspective, all things work together for good. And we'll get to that in terms of what's, some things that are coming out of this. And what I was actually just thinking was that the people that that were center stage in this particular event, from a spiritual perspective, their souls have stepped up and said, okay, we'll go, we'll do it. We'll be the ones that are whatever, to demonstrate something for all of us. And again, we'll get to that, but that's what I was thinking. I was just sort of going in my head.
Well, I want to go ahead and just talk a little bit about what happened for those of you who may not know. But Shivani, you said that even for you in Australia, it was on the news there because Starbucks are everywhere. This is not just in the US, and prejudice doesn't just happen here. And I really want to remind everybody, it happens everywhere in the world. And what happened last Thursday is a Starbucks in Philadelphia. There were two men that were arrested for trespassing as they were waiting to meet a friend. I guess it was a real estate agent, as I understand it. And there was the very same day, there was a 14-year-old boy in Michigan that was shot at when he knocked on a door looking for directions to his school. And the only crime that both of them had was they were both Black. And, and that's not a crime, but that was the only thing. It was a preconceived notion about these people, and with no other information about them. I've had people say before, oh, well, you're a blonde. I was quoting a philosopher one day, and I'll never forget this. I was quoting a philosopher, and I can't remember who it was, and they said, "You know that, a blonde?" And I'm like, "What?" What?
There's a prejudice.
It was a prejudice. It was a preconceived notion, a prejudgment based on nothing, no information. So before we get into the person at the Starbucks, is it the president?
Yeah, the president of Starbucks, Kevin Johnson.
Yeah, before we talk about that, I want to talk for a moment about where it can possibly come from. So where does this preconceived notion come from? And who's most likely to be?
Well, it's certainly not an inborn behavior. I mean, we're not born this way. I mean, we're not born prejudging, essentially. It's learned, and of course, depending on how one grew up and what that was about, we digest, what we saw, basically, or
heard.
Or heard, or heard. And certainly by being more conscious, we can catch it and go and even see that in the little things, the humorous things, like a food thing, like, gee, I don't like Indian food, or I don't know that I don't, but I've said that forever because it's spicy. But have I really tried different kinds of Indian food? Not really, you know? So, I mean, it can be as subtle and as innocuous, and it can be something then as painful and challenging as what happened at Starbucks. So, but we're all on that continuum of prejudice somewhere.
Yeah. And I think I'd like to add to that. So basically, from birth up to 7 years of age, you are very, very open. Okay. Everything comes in and you really don't have any defense, so to speak. So, and also you haven't got the critical, rational or mind or the awareness. So basically everything that your family tells you, whether verbal or just through behavior, you take on because you haven't got a filter. Yeah, so you literally inherit what your family believes.
Totally.
And I think that's how it starts. And then you might have incidences that confirms what you've been taught, because also whatever you believe, you will find evidence that this is true. That's how it works.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. There was this study that they did. I think it was back in I can't remember, 70s or 80s, with Bobo the Clown. Did either one of you ever see that?
No.
There was this blow up clown that it's a punching bag. And they put it in a room with a bunch of little kids. And then there was an adult in there, and the adult pretty much stayed away from it. And they went up and they interacted with it and with no problem. And there was no, the kids just were nice to Bobo the Clown, this blow up clown. And then an adult came in and started punching Bobo the Clown. And punching and hitting, even took a knife or a hammer to it, I think it was. And then they put the kids back in the room with Bobo, and they started doing exactly the same thing. Once they witnessed what they saw, they started repeating what they witnessed. So, children will do not as we say, but as they see us do.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So, that's what the whole study was all about. That was Bobo the Clown. If you look it up, the video is still on YouTube.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you can look it up and see.
And also, kids are energetically so open, they perceive energy. So even if they observe an interaction, say, that your mum has with somebody, and she might be smiling, but internally be angry or fearful, the child will actually pick up that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it goes in many, many different levels. And I think also, I don't know whether you had that, but I remember growing up in Germany, we had literally a lot of sayings. Yeah. So, for example, my parents were petrified that I would ever marry an Italian immigrant. Yeah. Or I remember saying, like, translated, it would be Catholics, if they read the Bible, are a little bit crazy. You can't trust Catholics. Yeah, so
what's that expression in German? What is that expression?
You mean, do you want me to say it in German?
Yeah. What is it? Yeah.
Okay. Katholiken haben nicken, wenn sie in die Bibel kicken.
And it rhymes.
It does. That's why it's even stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Sport ist Mord. Sport is murder. Like, you don't do sports. Wow. Yeah. So I think everyone grows up with some sort of saying or belief or, yeah.
And so the beauty of this is awareness is the first step, is the key, right? So now this issue is being shed light on, if you will, so everyone has an opportunity to become more aware in their own lives where there is prejudging going on. And of course, since we're all one, right? I mean, every piece of work we do affects what goes on the planet.
That's exactly right. There's a few things that we talked about that I want to just cover real quick. We talked about it being innate. For some people, fear is they're born more fearful than others. So the prejudice might actually come in with them.
Mm-hmm.
There are people, that internalize everything. They're they internalize, and other people, are more external. They look at their surroundings. They pay more attention to what's going on around them. And the people that live inside, what I call the lamb personalities, or the owl personalities, they would look external, and how does it affect me? And they would come to judgment faster than some other people, unless there's learned behavior that's also put in place. So there are some personalities that are in place, that are out there that come to judgment quicker, because it's got to start somewhere.
Depending on how much Capricorn energy you have, right, Shivani?
Well, and that's the other thing. Your sign can be the other part. So it can be, for me, it's the lion, the lamb, the peacock, and the owl personalities. That's how I express my personality profiles. For you, it is, Lorelei, is, of course, the signs. And Capricorn, all the Capricorns seem to move towards that I've met, move towards that prejudge quicker. What other signs besides Capricorn, though? This can't be the only.
Well, that would be the one that would move to judgment as this is right or this is wrong. In other words, this is good, this is bad, this is safe, this is unsafe. And so, or somebody with a strong Saturn. In other words, so somebody could have Saturn next to a planet, which would give them a Capricornian kind of, prejudging. But again, judging that, gee, the stove is hot, I better not touch it. Because I see the burner is orange. I think that's a good prejudgment to have.
And that's important to bring up, because it's not just a negative thing.
Right.
I've said this before, with my husband and I. He's that owl personality. I'm peacock. I'm out there, and I'm very optimistic, and he's, by his nature, he's pessimist. So I said, we see a dark alley, and my husband will go, "Ooh, I better be careful. I could get mugged." I see a dark alley and go, "Oh, a shortcut." I could get myself in trouble because I don't always prejudge when I should, I've never gotten myself in any kind of trouble, but I could. And I started realizing that, I should probably be a little more cautious. Well, I did get myself in trouble one time. One time it did happen.
I mean,
because I think that it's a good point, because obviously if you're in the middle of the night on a street as a woman by yourself and you see 4 men coming towards you, then, you can't just say, well, I'm prejudiced, let's say hello, especially if your feeling or your body goes into fear, and then that could be a really good warning sign. Get out of here.
Right.
Danger. And that's a good point, Shivani, about prejudice, because it's also, prejudice comes from fear. And fear, people fear, but fear is information.
Yeah.
Fear is information, and we forget that. Okay, I'm feeling fear. What is that about? And we don't question our fear. We just allow it to overtake us without questioning it, saying, okay, where is this coming from? Is this my intuition that's speaking to me? Is this my inner knowing, and I should pay attention to this? And so many times, and women, I believe, are the worst at excusing that. Oh, I'm just being prejudiced. I'm prejudging somebody. And we excuse it, and then we get ourselves in trouble when we should be questioning that fear. And there is a book that I'm the queen of books. The book that I wrote down for this, for anybody that has a fear like this, there's a book by Gavin de Becker called The Gift of Fear. And it is the best book I have ever read on fear, bar none. So The Gift of Fear, Gavin de Becker. Just wanted to throw that out there.
We have some more. We have a lot of comments on Zoom.
Okay, great.
So we have Carol. It's my understanding that judgment is an old story, tribal survival tool. It's up now because we can't carry it forward into the interconnectedness of oneness. Beautifully said.
Nice.
And then we have in Toronto last year, a group of Black students held their own graduation to underscore the prejudice they had in getting a degree. There was a huge outcry that they were going backwards by having a Black graduation, but I cried when I read it and still cry when I think of it. I'm white, and I realized how prejudiced I still am towards Black people in some ways. I was honest about this on Facebook, but got flack for it. Amazing. Which reminds me, you know, I realized quite a few years back, say when we are looking at racism, I think everyone to some degree is racist. Yeah, and I know some people would probably swear black and blue. No, I'm not. But I think that is part of the awareness. We are all racist. Once we can actually accept that, then I think we can become more and more aware. Well, how do we do that? And what do you think of that?
We fear what we don't understand. And I am forever grateful to the woman that lived next to me when I moved to Saginaw, Michigan from my hometown of Chesaning. And, you know, I was raised, there weren't anybody of color. Well, I think there was, we had 2 Mexican kids, friends, but there wasn't anybody of color, any African Americans in our hometown. And so when I moved to Saginaw, I lived in an apartment, and next to me was a Black woman, and I walked outside and I looked at her, and she could tell that I have never seen anybody of color. And she said something. She says, "Honey, you've never seen a Black woman before, have you?" And I said, and I just shook my head, and I didn't know what to think. I mean, I was just surprised. And she said, and she grabbed my hand and she put it across hers, and she said, "Honey, it don't rub off." And then she flipped her palm over and she said, "See this right here? I'm white. And on the inside, there's no color. God doesn't give us a color on the inside. We're all the same." And she brought me in her home. She taught me all about her culture. I met her whole family. She was the most beautiful, wonderful soul I'd ever met. And so I had a stunned reaction at first, but then my prejudice totally went away because she helped me to understand who she is on a soul level. And understanding is the one way that we can get past any prejudice, just like Gary eating the hamburger, or you know, when you look at that ugly outfit on a on a hanger and you go, "Who would wear that?" And then you try it on, you go, "Oh my gosh, this is great." So without knowing, you can't move past it. So you have to move past whatever the prejudice is.
There's someone
that's what she taught me.
Cindy Roberts asks, "Namaste, everyone. Thank you, ladies, for such a timely topic. Sending light and love your way. Please share how God shows up in the Starbucks scenario." So I would love to address that because, okay, so the way I believe that God shows up is on one level through Kevin Johnson. I think, again, everyone has stepped up to play their part in this particular cosmic drama, if you will. And Kevin Johnson, who was visibly outraged. You could see if anybody watched him on the news, he was visibly emotional. His voice was quivering. And he said, "Here we are, a neighborhood place," basically, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but where people come to connect, to hang out, and something like this happens. So, 8,000 stores will close for a day to do racial bias training, which is fabulous because, again, other CEOs might have reacted in other ways. But what I find talk about God showing up, this Kevin Johnson is a Libra. And they talk about it at Starbucks, the employees as partners. That's how they talk about it. And apparently he has not an open door policy, but close to it, you know, in terms of he's an accessible CEO, and he is really taking responsibility for this. There's no buck passing here. You know, there's very much, this happened. What can we do to ameliorate this in some way, or to shed light on it? And again, to do something that is so proactive. I mean, talk about courageous leadership, you know, in a situation like this, because somebody else could have been a jackass, you know? Yeah. So to me, that's how God is showing up here. It's bringing it to light so we can all be aware, to understand more, and then to really know in our gut what is right and what is wrong as far as each of us is concerned. So hats off to him and his soul in this journey, because, you know, and it's interesting, the emotion that he was showing. He has Mars. Mars is what drives us in Cancer. Well, Cancer's family. So, you know, you could tell that the family had been visibly affected by this. And so to me, that's one way that God has shown up in all this.
And I want to remind everyone too, that there are soul contracts in place here.
Yeah.
Because the two men had a soul contract to be willing to be arrested like this, to be willing to put themselves in the circumstances where they could be arrested, where someone would prejudge them. There is the manager whom was fired over it. The manager is on a soul journey if she chooses to be aware of it. This is her opportunity to awaken to a new level of understanding through this. And maybe, you know, before she got to this earth plane, she said to herself, or she said, you know, in her soul contract, I want to go to learn about the law of allowing. You know, allowing other people to be who they are, to move past the prejudice. I want to learn that. So if she's to learn that, then something has to happen that allows her to learn that. And this is her opportunity for growth. Whether she takes it or not, that's free will.
Right. Right. Because again, if anybody makes this about Starbucks or these people, you know, it's like a class action projection. You know, it's kind of, let's make it about them, right? Let's not deal with the issue that's coming up for each of us. However, and anyone is reacting to this, there's the opportunity for growth. So that's, I totally agree with you. I mean,
boycotting
story.
Yeah, boycotting Starbucks isn't going to fix the situation.
Right.
Not for a minute. It has to be done in a much deeper level than that.
And also, I really believe that I create my own reality, and that your soul wants to grow and learn and experience itself in a much more expanded way.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it's literally, okay, so I'm on the stage of my life, and who do I ask to play with me? Yeah, and in a way, it was a very powerful play what happened at Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think and the cool thing is, because I think that's the energy, that is the awakening that is happening at the moment, where we bring the shadow, the collective shadow, up into the light. And as you said, how amazing that the CEO or the president of Starbucks is so enlightened to actually say, hey, everybody needs training. We can't, and I agree. Another person could have really responded very differently.
And you know, what's also interesting, while he's a Libra, he has a lot of Scorpio energy, Kevin Johnson, Mercury, how he communicates, and Venus. So standing in the fire with this, right? Actually taking the hit, so to speak, on a spiritual level. You know, he's in a 12-year cycle of understanding that powerful, you know, side, because Libra doesn't like confrontation. You know, Libra wants everything to be basically, you know, where it's fair. And he's doing, to me, he's certainly doing his best to make that happen. So, I totally agree. Because it is a collective shadow piece. Prejudice, especially racial prejudice, any prejudice for sure, is a collective shadow piece of fear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What
And
other
what a
comments do
beautiful
we
thing.
have? And do we have any on Facebook?
We had judging. Let's see. I was just there.
Nothing more on YouTube, on Zoom.
Okay. All right.
We've got to stop judging. Hi, everyone. Judging has no place anytime. Hello, everyone. Love and light, liked and shared. Well, we do have a comment about that how to move judgment. You were talking about doing some tapping. That would be a good issue to tap on.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it here? Yeah, you answered it, Shivani.
So I would say, apart from tapping and having literally an energetic shift, I think to remove it is the first thing, as we said already, is awareness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To really question yourself. Okay, am I, whether it's racial or whether it's, discriminating against age or people that haven't got a university degree, when you realize the awareness is, okay, I'm realizing this, and then you can literally ask yourself, well, is it true? Do I know it?
Mm-hmm.
Like Katie, what's her name? Katie, Byron Katie. Yeah, I love this.
Byron Katie, right? Yeah.
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 Is it true? Can I really be sure that it's true? And who would I be without this thought?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a
Like
good one.
an inquiry.
I also think about, each and every one of us when we are faced with these situations, don't judge yourself over it. But I always go back to questioning, wow, isn't that interesting that I'm feeling this way? What is it about the situation that I am prejudging? The situation, the person, the circumstances, and how can I gather evidence to show me what's really going on? So I'm one of those people. I'm an investigator. It is in my nature to be the detective, and I like to look at all the circumstances at what is in play here. What don't I know about the circumstances? So, asking questions is another way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And getting clear, just like that beautiful soul that was willing to teach me about somebody that was different than her, and she got to know about me too. And what's interesting is she's not been around a lot of white folks. That's what she said. So she said, this gives us both an opportunity to learn. So we can learn from each other, regardless of the culture or the religion. I mean, how many of us have judged other people because their belief system is different? Somebody asked me the other day about being spiritual. They said, I see that you say you're spiritual on Facebook instead of a Christian. Does that mean you don't pray?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that? I pray. I say I pray every day, all day long.
My life is a prayer.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's it. That's it. So we're spiritual beings having a physical experience here. And, and we are one, not separate from God, but one with. And some people, they've never thought of that before. But they, right away, they go to that place. So all of us have something.
Well, and from the Ho'oponopono perspective, it's just more to be cleaned. This is coming up to be cleansed, cleared, cleaned, so each person's reaction is about the inside job. So again, here's an opportunity for more bringing it forth. That's absolutely right. The collective shadow, from a cosmic weather perspective, that's exactly what's going on now. We're having an opportunity to turn over the underbelly, like move the stones in the garden and the worms are all over there. Well, that's the opportunity now. And this particular scenario fits right beautifully under that umbrella.
Mm.
Beautifully. Beautifully.
Yeah. And so some of us had literally a traumatic experience, where you may have been robbed at gunpoint or something happened that really harmed you. Now, when that happened, then you might say, I remember Ferris said he's been not robbed, but he's been held at gunpoint twice by a black person, a colored person. Yeah, and then it's very easy to, I think when I say easy, your body will have the memory, because then quite often you have PTSD. And so he had to work extra hard not to walk around, in the US, and each time he sees a black person to go into fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or for any of us who have had situations with, either male or female, to prejudge every male, every female, as if somebody has hurt us, broke our heart, as a bad person. All men are like this, or how many times do we hear that? All men are this way. All women are this way. Well, no, they're not. Everyone's an individual. We have to get to know them on their own merits. So relationships, big place for judgment, wouldn't you say?
Yes, big.
Well, it's like, no, seriously, it's like men with hats on while they're driving, they're always bad drivers.
Yeah. I mean, they're all, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I grew up with in Germany.
Really?
I'm serious.
Really? Oh my goodness. I've not heard that one. Have you, Lorelai?
No.
I know.
Oh, how funny.
Well, my dad.
Let's do something about it.
We were raised with prejudice against sports, group sports, team sports, because my dad said that makes you into a follower. And I want you all to be leaders.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, and I wished I would have known. It made me unemployable. I didn't know how to be part of a team. Seriously, I didn't know how to be part of a team, because that's what I was taught is, you get out front always. And, that was prejudging, that was put on me. And it took me a long time to get over that, so that I could work with other people.
Yeah.
It was.
I think the best start is to inquire, especially when you notice yourself making sweeping judgments, where you're stereotyping a whole group of people.
Right.
Where does it come from?
Group of people, situations, as we said, things, food.
Yeah. Well, and another antidote, if you will, for prejudice, for prejudging, is trust.
Yes.
Is to trust, whether it's the dark alley or whether, whatever it is, it's a trust place as well.
Yeah. Trust that if you get that bad feeling, this is not a good place for me to go. This is not a good place for me to be. Get out of here. Listen to that knowing and react not to the fear, but the message the fear is giving you. Mm-hmm. I can't state that enough. That I used to have a lot of fear, and that saved me from a lot of fear. Just going, what is this about? It's delivering a message. So yeah, I want to go ahead and move into tapping, because if you have a prejudgment, a prejudice that you are working on moving through in your life, then the place to start, I always feel, is tapping. And Lorelai and I actually met because of tapping. We were in the same class. This was how many years ago?
Got to be 67 years ago now. I'm gonna figure it out, because it's.
and it's interesting. I prejudged our relationship, but it was in a good way, because I saw you across the room, and for 2 days I kept trying to get to you to talk to you, because I knew we were supposed to do something together. Is that really a prejudice, or is that just a knowing?
I thought you were going to say you were prejudiced because you knew I was a Libra.
No. Or you that I was a Pisces.
No, I would say that's divine guidance. That's not prejudice.
Yeah, and that was a different feeling altogether, and that could get confusing, I suppose. But I knew we were to do work together, and here we are.
Here we are.
So for all of you that are listening, I would like you to just take a moment right now and just take a nice deep breath. Allow it to fill all the way to the lower lobes of the lungs where there is a relaxation response. And again, a nice deep breath in. And release it. And one more time, a nice deep breath in. Now we're going to start with the karate chop area, which is like this for anyone who doesn't know about tapping. I think that most of the people that I see here do know, but if you don't, we're just going to start here. And we're going to start with a statement. I don't know why I am feeling this prejudice. What is it that I am to learn? I deeply and completely love and respect myself. I'm not sure why I'm feeling this prejudice. It's been with me for a long time. Where did it come from? Help me expose where this came from so that I can understand, because I deeply and completely love and respect myself. I'm feeling this prejudice and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why, but I'm willing to be open to understand. For some reason, I'm feeling a prejudice and I don't know where it's coming from. Is it something that I witnessed when I was young? I am opening my heart to receiving new information because I don't want to prejudge. This doesn't feel good to me. And I want to understand where it came from. Help me to understand, to expose truly where this came from so that I can release it. I'm willing to release this prejudice. Lorelei?
I can't believe I'm judging again. Here it is, and it's right in my face. I don't want to be someone who judges. I know that there's an origin for this, and I know it's coming up, so I can bless it, because everything that comes up in my life is a blessing. So even though this prejudice does not feel good, I know there is something here for me to learn and an opportunity for me to move through an old pattern and an old behavior so that I may come to peace and therefore bring peace to all my fellow beings.
I can feel it begin to lift, this heavy feeling that I have been feeling for so long. I can feel it moving through me. Balancing of my energy is beginning to happen. I can feel it and I receive it. I receive this feeling. This is not who I be. This is what I learned. And I release what I have learned. Because I am here to be who I came here to be, which is a loving, heart-centered individual that looks at all the facts before I judge. I want to approach this from a place of knowing, and knowing gives me power. I am empowered. I get to choose instead of it being a reaction. Lorelei?
I bless this circumstance. There is something very holy in this for me and for those in my world. Nothing happens by accident. Everything is orchestrated by my soul, and therefore I bless what is coming up here. I bless this, and from it I receive the knowing, the understanding, and the awareness to show up in my life as a loving, caring, kind, compassionate, caring, self-responsible individual. And for this, I am eternally grateful to each and every circumstance. Thank you, God.
Thank you, God.
Thank you, God.
And so it is.
So it is.
And so it is.
Go ahead and take a nice deep breath, everyone. And just release your breath slowly. Again. One last time. In this time, let the out breath just whoosh out. Breathe in. And a big release. That felt great.
Woo!
You know, for some of you, you might feel some movement start to happen, and you might do this if you need to do this a few more times if you feel some movement. And, you know, continue to do this. And if another word comes up for you, it might switch to something like, instead of prejudice, it might be anger, it might be misunderstanding, it might be, what else could it be? Other words that could come.
Yeah, anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to offer something because there's so many tapping techniques and so many wonderful practitioners, etc. What I was essentially doing, and this is for people who really don't, if you don't know anything about tapping, to just look at where the points are. You can find those anywhere. What I was doing was just telling the story. In other words, it's all you have to do is tap and just tell what is. So it's not, you don't have to have a script. You don't have to, you can just go, I can't believe that I'm feeling so angry. I can't believe that I'm outraged at what happened. I can't believe, and you tap it through telling the story, and it dissipates you're owning what is the present, but it dissipates that. So I just wanted to, for those people that maybe are tappers out there, if they were wondering what I was doing, I was telling the story, because for me, that's how I get in touch with that childlike place in me. So that's where tapping for me has been so powerful. So I just wanted to offer that for folks that don't know how to tap. Just talk about what's going on in your life, and it will dissipate, and you will find yourself then, once you've been able to lessen the challenging feelings, all of a sudden then inspiration will come about how to shift something, which you then continue to tap.
Beautifully said. Do we have any comments?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
God, Carol, thank you for bringing up the Ho'oponopono prayer and trust. In my 20s, I was raped by a black man. In a different situation, I was choked by a black man who was attempting to burgle our house. But those situations are about behavior, not right. And therefore, oops, something just, we had another one, hang on. I was choked by, but those situations are about behavior, not race. And therefore, I am sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm aware that there is still a residue on a cellular level of what I guess I'd call caution, but I certainly hope that does not equate to prejudice. Perhaps a need for discernment. Thank you for laughter. Thank you for the tapping. And then we have Vicky. Hi, lovely people. I always found it interesting with even how others judge my judgment or prejudice. My dad is dark-skinned and my mum fair. And I've always noticed when judgment, prejudice, or racism even has come up in my life, even as a kid from an early age, there was huge fear for me to raise this as I felt it come up. I'd seen the reaction of others when someone pointed out that judgment, prejudice, etc. When I was an adult, of course, I felt a little bit more comfortable to speak up. like with most things. I remember encountering a prejudgment or perhaps a racist view too from a lady serving in a shop. I can never know for sure, but my instincts and her reaction and behavior towards me in the shop, and no one else seemed to get this treatment. And it was a small enough incident, but I mentioned it to my mom afterwards. She reacted with, "You have such a chip on your shoulder." And we talked more about it, but she kept closing it down with that stance. It's a common view too, that of prejudice to my reaction. I got it. So when you point out something and you bring it up into the light, people don't receive you. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And Sat Prem said judging has no place anytime. And, I have to disagree with that, because sometimes, judgment can actually help us. Judging, like I said, that dark alley. Judging that dark alley might be a good thing. So we have to have discernment, to keep ourselves safe. Also, we've got to stop judging. Once again, judgment has its place. It's when we judge with no information that we get ourselves in trouble, or are unfair to someone else or something else. Hello, everyone. Wishing you love and light. I liked it and shared this video.
Yay!
That's what we want. We want you to like it. We want lots of hearts, everyone. We love hearts, thumbs up, your comments. We truly are here for you. And thank you for all the hearts. I love it. And I want to, I want your feedback. We want your feedback, because this is all about all of us. It's not for just us. It's all of us. This is our conversation. So be part of the conversation. Again, if you've ever experienced either yourself or prejudge someone else, just hit the like button so that we know, where you're coming from, because this is something that we've all done, and we can all take action to make these things better through understanding. Understanding is the key.
Yep.
Because it's really my dream to be part of a society that has less fear. So imagine for a moment that we can actually meet a stranger and be open-hearted and have an amazing exchange and something that's uplifting. Yeah, and for me, that is part of bringing heaven to earth. Yeah, to really deeply realize we are all one. Doesn't matter what skin color we have, what religion we have, what sexual orientation we have, how old we are, and to at least be open to hearing the other person.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final thoughts for you, Lorelei?
Just, again, standing in the courage to be who we are and offer the gifts and talents that each of us has come in with as part of our soul's contract to contribute to the healing of the planet. Just that little thing.
Yeah, just that little thing. I love it. Well, this has just been wonderful again. And again, we are bringing to you the topics making the news. If you see news happening out there and you feel like it's something that really needs to be addressed, please write us and let us know. Support at Energized Living Today. And we actually have a new email address, which is soulview1111@gmail.com. And you can also send it there. Either place will get it to us. So we want to hear your questions and comments. And we thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, ladies. This has been fabulous.
Namaste.
Thank you, and to all of our viewers. Love you all.